is Reverend Georgia inviting you to today's broadcast. You know, whether you're watching this at home because you're not feeling well today and you couldn't make it into church, or whether you're watching it from far away, we want you to know that you are part of the church that love is building. You're part of the CSA family. We are a church with many, many, many beliefs, and they all boil down to these four. The four beliefs are these. Number one is that God is all there is. There's no oppositional power to the power of God. There's no external devil. There's no external evil. Now you and I know there's plenty of evil and plenty of devilishness in the world, but we believe it starts and stops right here. The second belief that we have is that all thought is creative and influential, and as a result of that, we're careful what we think around here. We don't beat ourselves up. We're not a shaming tribe. We're not a blaming tribe. If our thought doesn't work, we simply put a new one in. The third belief that we have is that everything in our experience is either a call for love or an expression of love, no exceptions. And the last belief that we have, that we hold on to with all of our heart, all of our mind, and all of our soul, is that you are whole, perfect, and complete just as you are. If you have questions after you hear today's broadcast, don't hesitate to come onto our website at www.csasacramento.org and be sure and ask your questions. Let us prepare ourselves. If you put your hand over your eyes, I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. And over your ears, I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. Now if you just put your hand over your heart and extend your arms out, I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that you have peace in your heart all of the time. You have peace in your heart all of the time. During those times when you've just done something that you wish you hadn't done, and maybe you're a little ashamed of yourself, or you're cringing about it, you have peace in your heart just at that moment. At that moment when you're screaming at your mate or your kids after you promised yourself you wouldn't do it anymore, you have peace in your heart right at that moment. At that moment when you look at your credit card bill, and even though you swore you're going to get yourself back in control, you have peace in your heart right then. We always have peace in our heart. Our work is to tap into that peace during those times. I love what Thich Nhat Hanh says. He says it's really easy to have peace in your heart when you live in an ashram. Our work is to have peace in our heart on the green, green grass of earth. And the green, green grass of earth is that time when all of those things are going on in our lives. You know, John Brahm says this: when we have fear, because what robs us of our peace is fear about all of these situations. When we have fear going on, what's happening is we are arguing with the future. We're arguing with the future. And the truth is, we can't control the future. We don't even know what the future holds. Every one of us in this room has been through a situation at one point or another in which we thought we knew what was going to happen, whether it was going to be good or not good, and the opposite has happened. We can't control the future. We have no idea about it. See, when we can begin to learn how to embrace fear. Pema Chodron wrote a great book, great Buddhist teacher, Pema Chodron. She wrote a great book, When Things Fall Apart. If you haven't read that book, get it in the bookstore. When Things Fall Apart. And what she says in that book is we have to create an intimacy with fear. Not a comfort with it, but an intimacy with fear. Because when we create an intimacy with fear, we're much more able to be in the stillness. And when we are in the stillness, in a state of intimacy with fear, that is the way to peace. That's how we get to peace in our life. See, what happens with us is when we do something we're afraid of, we overreact. We call our posse and tell them how bad everybody else is. We sharpen up our blamer. When we are at peace, we don't do those things. We stay inside and know that the answer is always inside of us. We're not defensive people. When we cultivate peace, we get to that place of serenity in our lives. Fear saps that serenity. It saps our peace. Maybe that's what Ernest Holmes knew when he said these words. He said, peace is the power at the heart of God. Peace is the power at the heart of God. And all of us are God in form. And so peace is at our heart. Peace is our power as well. See, he understood that peace was a foundation to true power. True power. Peace and power are not contradictory statements. They're interdependent states of being when we have peace and power going on at the same time. When we're in that state of interdependence with peace and power, there are no bullies. See, bully power is transitory power. It's not real power. It only lasts until the next bully comes along. I'm talking about the kind of power that changes people's lives, that changes entire countries, that changes families, that changes personalities, that changes finances. That's the kind of lasting peace and power combination that I'm talking about. So how do we do that? How do we get a consciousness of peace going on in our lives? Well, I'm going to run very quickly. There are many, many ways. I'm going to run very quickly through 5 ways that I know for me. If I keep firm before me these 5 ways, I increase the chances of me walking in peace during those times of storm. The first one is this. Get rid of your old definitions of peace. Peace and doormat are not the same. True peaceful people are never doormat people. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, Rosa Parks, the Dalai Lama. Those are all people who know their power. They never let anybody else disrespect them. They are not a doormat. They know who they are because they understood at a deep level they are representations of God, and nobody disrespects the God in them. And they got that and began to show us how to get there without. And one of the ways was to know that nobody got to disrespect them. Nobody got to disrespect any of those people. And when they got that, then they knew they didn't have to disrespect other people. See, the 4 of them, Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. King, the Dalai Lama, Rosa Parks, they all got it. That there were no enemies, nobody out there to fight, that what they had to fight was any internal devils that were agreeing that they were bad or not enough. That's who they had to begin to have the fight with. They knew that they couldn't walk around with a big sign that says, "Kick me" on it. You know, they got that. Some of us are so down, it's inconceivable that we would demand respect for ourselves. And if we belong to a tribe that has historically been put down, we have to know that we can't fall into that. Sometimes we say things like it's just the way it is. Disrespect is never just the way it is. And it's never the way to peace. Sometimes we're in marriages and we just say, well, that's how it is. It's never the way it is. Whether you're in a tribe or a marriage or an office, nobody gets to disrespect any of us because we are representations of God on the planet. They modeled that. The second way is Trust in your inner peace. Everybody here knows what their peace feels like. Trust it. Follow only that peace. And when you're about to do something and your stomach is a little upset, or you don't feel good about it, you don't feel at peace about it, don't do it. Whether it's going out with somebody or going to a party, maybe you're new in recovery and you don't have peace about going to that party, don't go. Maybe it's getting into a business relationship with somebody and you don't have peace about that opportunity. Don't do it. Follow your own peace. You know what that peace is for you. Maybe it's you've been wanting to go out, wanting a date. You finally got a date, but you don't have peace about that person. I promise you're going to get another date. Don't go. Don't go to that one. Follow your own peace. The second one is find your own buttons. Find your own buttons and unhook them. We all have buttons. And those buttons were placed there when we were little people. Don't even spend 1 nanosecond figuring out who put your buttons in there. Don't worry about whether it was your mother, your father, your clergy, your third grade teacher. Doesn't matter who they were. Leave it be. Don't waste one spiritual moment that's precious for your healing on trying to figure out how that got there or who put it there. Just figure out what it is. Figure out what it is that in you robs you of your peace. What word, what phrase that somebody might say. You didn't go to college. You aren't pretty. You aren't handsome. Some version of that. You don't have any hair. You have too much. Whatever it is, find what it is. I use this example a lot in this area, but, when somebody calls me gay, any variation of that, positive, negative, any variation of the word gay, rolls off my back. I don't care. Doesn't bother me. Because I've done the internal work to disengage any buttons that are associated with that. I've clipped them off. They're done. Now you call me fat. Hopefully we won't have a word because I'll go inside. So you have work to do. How do you know what your buttons are? Every time someone hurts your feelings, they've pushed a button. Every time. I know people say, I don't get my feelings. Oh, you do too. You do too. We all get our feelings hurt. And when that happens, that person has just given you one of the greatest gifts you can have because they've shined a flashlight on your button that needs to be taken out. I used to say, let's work with our buttons. No, don't work with your buttons. Remove your buttons. Amen? Amen. Your button's gone. Okay. So the next one is commit to no enemies. Don't have any enemies. No, there's no point in having enemies. There are none. The greatest gift religious science gave me, the greatest gift religious science has ever given me that stopped robbing me of my peace is that I don't have enemies. I had to learn it. There are some things you just have to learn with your mind, and then you have to keep working it and working it and working it and working it and working it. There are all kinds of people out there that will help you work with this. So every time you think, whoa, I want to fight against that person. And if you're like me and you have a little addiction to cable TV, you have a lot of opportunities to find ways in which to not have enemies in your life. But you can do that, and it'll be a great gift if you can say to yourself, there's not me and them, there's me as them. Amen. The next thing that we want to look at is stop saying that you can't help it. You can't help reacting. You're just a passionate person and you got to react. That's who you are. You got to do it. Now, here's what I truly believe. I believe there are some people who are just laid back people. And the dishwasher's broken and the kids are yelling and the dog's screaming and all of that's going on. And they're just, like, well, another day in the neighborhood. It's fine. They're good. I'm not that way. I have to work at it. I have to work at it. But you know what? Controlling your emotions is absolutely possible for every single person in this room. There is nobody who can't control their emotions. Amen? Now, for those of you who might doubt that, who might think you are way too passionate to be able to do that, let me give you just a little visual here that you can think of. Say one day afternoon, you're just having a fit. Oh, you're having a fit. And you're just screaming and yelling and throwing things, and you're just having a fit. And I ring the doorbell. And you open the door. Hello, Reverend Georgia. See, you don't want me to know that you're having a fit. You don't want the Reverend knowing you're fitting. So you've just controlled your emotions. Everybody can control their emotions. See, everybody. The last one is learn to let go with love. Learn to let go with love. You know, when I say that there are no enemies, I mean it. There are no enemies. But there are some people in our life that we have to take a break from. We just have to step back in love. We don't have to go off in a huff. We don't have to go off, giving them half a peace sign. We just step back. We step back in love. That's all we do. Because we need a break. We need a break. What do we need the break for? Not for them to change, but for us to change. We need to step back so we can say, what's going on with me that this person has me so reactive? What robbed my peace here? And then we begin to look inside. And sometimes that's not so easy to pinpoint. And that's why we have practitioners here. Use this church on more than Sunday morning. Call a practitioner and say, you know what? I'm mad as hell, and I don't know why. This person makes me crazy, and I don't know why. And let practitioners work with you around that so that you can because it's attached to your button. And let them work with you in letting go. You remember that Joseph had to step back from Mary when she said, I'm pregnant, and I don't really know how. A ghost came and, okay. Joseph couldn't even wrap his head around that. He needed to take a step back. Now, eventually, he went back with Mary. He went back, and you will too. But he needed to go within and do his own work so that he got ready for it. The last thing I want to just say is, don't ever hesitate to simply know the spiritual magnificence of calling the word peace when you are in turmoil. Say that with me. Peace. Oh, you sound like 9 o'clock people. Peace. All right. Okay. It's better. So here's what we want to do. Whenever you're in a storm, as Jesus did when he was in a storm on the fishing boat, he didn't do anything but call peace. That's what we can do. It gives us just a moment to take a breath. If you're having a stormy financial time, call peace. If you've gone through a stormy breakup, call peace. Whatever, you get a diagnosis that just scares the dickens out, call peace. It's very, very powerful. Well, as you know, we are today opening the season for nonviolence. And that is a very powerful time between the anniversary of the death of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. It lasts for 64 days. It's called the Season for Nonviolence. Now, there are a number of churches in our movement who are now calling it the Season for Peace. Not here. We're not calling it the Season for Peace. We're calling it for the Season for Nonviolence because we want to be mindful that violence takes people away. It took Dr. King away. It took Mahatma Gandhi away. So we're careful. We understand now, and some people say, well, why 64 days? Let's just do it all the time. Okay, that's good. But for 64 days, this is our training period. This is where we're going to train ourselves. We have out there books. They're little activity books, tiny little suggestions of something you can do every day to stretch your peace muscle. Very small, but profound. Now, we have one for adults, and a couple of years ago, Julie Jenkins Sathi and I wrote one for children. So if you have children, take one for the kids, too. There's little activities that are more their age.